Hi friends, my name is Victoria and I hope you're having a great day today. If you're interested in true crime like I am, I hope that you would consider hitting that subscribe button, but either way, thanks for being here. The latest true crime spectacle is playing out across Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard defamation lawsuit, and it stars the personal struggles and pain of real people. I think that there is no such thing as a blameless party in a divorce. Let's just try to figure out how and why. Hashtags associated with the trial have repeatedly trended across Twitter as viewers watch and discuss the celebrity case of the year, its scandal, the glamorous movie stars and its Heard, and the question of what to believe and how much. If there is one thing that's clear in the Depp Heard case, it's that none that much is clear. This story is overwhelmingly messy and complicated. Sociologist Nicole Badera, who studies gender violence, say that in all fandoms, one of the things that people like to do is go in really deep and try to make sense of what's going on and try to find that little nugget or Easter egg that nobody else noticed. But that can be really damaging when we're talking about people's real lives. And that's one of the issues with true crime. These aren't made-up stories, they are people's real lives. We're all, as a society, expecting them to tell their story exactly perfectly, to never get caught up in something, to never make a small mistake. When in reality, there is a lot of research that shows that cross-examination in particular makes victims say things that aren't true, because the stress of the situation is so intense that if you ask survivors the same questions, but in a trauma-informed manner, these stories will actually stay completely consistent. When you are trying to pick up on these little moments and saying, "Oh, we caught her, she said something off, we found a lie," it actually might not be that a survivor is making a mistake. It might actually be more about the way the criminal justice system or the civil justice system is treating her. Objectively, Johnny Depp does seem to have overwhelmingly more support than Amber Heard, so if you're a fan of Johnny and you do think that, hey, he didn't do good things here, if you think that maybe he's an abuser, how do you get through that feeling or at least become open to it? It's worth remembering that one of the reasons that you might be a fan of Johnny Depp isn't because of who he is as a person. It's because of the characters he has played. And so you can still appreciate these characters that have absolutely nothing to do with who he is as a human being. And that would be a pretty straightforward way to address something like this, to say, "Oh yeah, if I really liked Pirates of the Caribbean, I guess I don't know anything about the cast. Maybe I don't know so much about them and who they are as people." This is a murky, perplexing trial. While it's technically a defamation trial over a newspaper article, with Depp suing Heard, as its center is one big conflict. Amber Heard says Johnny Depp abused her, Depp says Heard abused him. So what's the truth? Strikingly, for our post-Me Too world, it looks as though the loudest voices on the internet have overwhelmingly sided with Depp. While there is compelling evidence that there was violence on both sides of this marriage, it's not quite so clear that the evidence supports Depp's story or that he has much of a shot at winning this case. What Depp does have is the stronger public profile. Though it's been over a decade since he put out a true critical hit, he's delivered enough acclaimed work over the course of his long career to earn himself a fair amount of goodwill. The star of hits like Edward Scissorhands, Donnie Brasco, and the many Pirates of the Caribbean sequels, Depp has been nominated for 3 Oscars and been named People's Sexiest Man Alive twice. As Depp's film's career declined over the course of the 2010s, his personal and financial troubles began. In 2017, Depp sued both his longtime business managers and his entertainment lawyer, claiming they had mismanaged his finances. An infamous Rolling Stone profile from this period paints Depp as a fading and deluded icon cut off from reality by his money, his fame, and copious amounts of drugs. His Rolling Stone declared brutally a punchline, bankrupt, isolated, and one more mistake away from being blackballed from his industry. Hewitt, on the other hand, was just beginning to approach the point of becoming a household name when she first met Depp on the set of The Rum Diary in 2009. At the time, both were in relationships with other people. Over 20 years younger than Depp, she had her first major job as a supporting character in the 2008 Judd Apatow stoner comedy Pineapple Express. When The Rum Diary came out in 2011, it was a sign that she was entering a new phase of her career, playing the love interest of A-listers. From here, Hewitt went on to play major roles in 2015's Magic Mike XXL The Adderall Diaries. And in 2017, she was cast in her biggest role to date as Mara, the Queen in DC Comics' Aquaman franchise. All this is to say that when these two figures met and throughout their marriage, Johnny Depp was a known quantity to the American public. Amber Heard was very much not. Moreover, their relationship coincided with Depp's long and very public downward spiral. By 2012, Depp and Heard had split up with their respective partners and began dating each other. In 2014, they got engaged, and in 2015, they got married. Then, in 2016, Heard filed for divorce. 4 days later, she filed a request for a restraining order. Everything else would follow from there. So, who is suing whom and why? Johnny Depp is suing Amber Heard for defamation because of an op-ed she published in the Washington Post in 2018. In the op-ed headlined, "I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change." Heard never mentions Depp, but she refers to herself as a public figure representing domestic abuse. Depp and his lawyers have argued, and a judge has agreed, that Heard is clearly implying that Depp abused her over the course of their year-long marriage. Heard first publicly accused Depp of domestic violence in May 2016 when, days after filing for divorce, she requested and received a temporary restraining order on the grounds of domestic violence. Depp's lawyer promptly issued a statement saying that Heard was lying, attempting to secure a premature financial resolution by alleging abuse. When the pair eventually reached an out-of-court divorce settlement in August 2016, Heard withdrew her request for a permanent restraining order. The pair also issued a joint statement that busily made the claim that neither of the contradictory statements each made about each other were true. On the one hand, there was never an intent of physical or emotional harm, so Depp wasn't abusive, and on the other hand, neither party has made false accusations for financial gains. So Heard wasn't lying for a better financial settlement. In what appeared to be a move meant to back up the second half of the joint statement, Heard, who reportedly got $7 million in the settlement, announced that she would donate her settlement to charity, dividing it between the ACLU and the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. This will come up again later. The announcement seemed to be sending a signal. Heard couldn't have been lying about Depp abusing her for money because she didn't get any money out of the divorce. What motivation for making her accusation could she have unless it were true? Regardless, gossip outlets like TMZ rapidly aligned themselves with Depp and declared Heard a certain liar. In her op-ed, Heard claims that she was dropped from a movie and a fashion advertising campaign after making her accusations. Depp, meanwhile, kept working. In December 2016, it was announced that he would play a key role in the Harry Potter spin-off franchise, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Then in October 2017, the first accusations against Harvey Weinstein dropped and the world changed. Suddenly there was intense outrage around the idea that powerful men all over Hollywood were abusing women and getting away with it. The idea that Johnny Depp's ex-wife felt the need to get a restraining order against him was abruptly very powerful. It's in that atmosphere that Heard was named ambassador on women's rights for the ACLU, and in that capacity that she wrote her op-ed in December 2018. 3 months later, in March 2019, Depp filed a defamation lawsuit against her seeking $50 million. In January 2021, Heard countersued for $100 million. Heard's countersuit looks likely to go court later this year, also in Virginia. The trial currently taking place in Depp's lawsuit against Heard. Perhaps more confusingly, this case is something like a do-over. In 2018, Depp sued the executive editor and publisher of the British tabloid The Sun for a label after it referred to him as a wife-beater in an article, bringing the case to the notoriously more plaintiff-friendly British courts. When Depp's suit against The Sun went to trial in London in 2020, the burden was on The Sun to show that its statement about Depp was correct. Despite the odds stacked against it, the newspaper, which called on Heard to detail 14 instances during which she said Depp abused her, succeeded. The judge accepted that Mr. Depp put her in fear of her life, and soon after Depp announced that he had been asked to resign from the Fantastic Beasts franchise. Because Depp sued The Sun, however, and not Heard, that verdict wasn't grounds to dismiss Depp's suit against Heard. It will go forward in Virginia. Is this a case of mutual abuse, or is it DARVO? If there is one thing that's clear in the Depp-Heard case, it's that not that much is clear. This story is overwhelmingly messy and complicated. There is compelling evidence that Depp acted violently towards Heard. In the UK trial, Heard submitted witness testimony, contemporaneous text messages, emails, and diary entries, and photographs of her bruises. Taken together, they demonstrated a clear pattern of abuse, most often when Depp was under the influence of drugs or alcohol. In order to fake them, Heard would have had to spend years plotting to besmirch Depp's name. He claims she did. While the details are too extensive to catalog exhaustively in the video, here is a brief overview of some of the most discussed incidents in question. In June 2013, one of Heard's close female friends hugged her. According to Heard, Depp, drunk and high on mushrooms, flew into a rage, grabbed the woman's wrist, and threatened to hurt her. Then he allegedly trashed the cabin where he and Heard were staying, hit Heard, and threw glasses at her. Multiple witnesses agree that Depp certainly got angry and trashed the cabin, and Discovery also yelled contemporaneous texts between Depp and the actor Paul Bettany in which they fantasized together about burning Heard as a witch.
Paul Bettany's a good friend that you've done drugs with, right?
That's a strange question. Paul Bettany is a good friend. Yes.
You've done drugs with him?
Yes, I have.
You text Mr. Bettany, "Let's burn Amber," 3 exclamation points, right? You see that?
I do see that.
And at this time, June 11, 2013, Amber is your girlfriend or perhaps even your fiance at this point, correct?
Girlfriend,
Yep.
for sure.
And you didn't stop when you said, let's burn Amber. Because the next text down, you say, let's drown her before we burn her. 3 exclamation points. After you said, let's drown her before we burn her, Mr. Depp, you said, I will f her burnt corpse afterwards to make sure she is dead. That's what you said that you would do after you burned her and after you drowned her. Did I read that right?
You certainly did, yes.
And you would sometimes drink whiskey in the mornings too, right? During this time period.
Isn't happy hour any time? Yes, I do.
In March 2015, while in Australia, Heard say that Depp spent 3 days on a violent tear, during which he says he repeatedly assaulted her. Both Heard and Depp agree that the tip of Depp's finger was served during this period. Depp says Heard threw a bottle at him and cut it off.
And I walked behind the bar, and there was a larger bottle of vodka, the kind with the handle, on it. I grabbed that and I went and I sat in my seat again. I opened the bottle and I poured myself a shot and drank it. Miss Heard was flinging insults left, right, and center, and she then grabbed that bottle and threw that at me. I honestly didn't feel the pain at first at all. I felt no pain whatsoever. What I felt was, I felt heat. I felt heat, and I felt as if something were dripping down my hand, And then I looked down and realized that the tip of my finger had been severed. I think that I went into some sort of, I don't know what a nervous breakdown feels like, but that's probably the closest that I've ever been. Nothing made sense. And I knew in my mind and in my heart, this is not life. This is not life.
While Heard says Depp cut it off himself from punching the wall and a plastic wall-mounted phone, and that he then used the injured finger to scroll demeaning graffiti about Heard over a mirror and lampshade. Both Heard's sister and her friend Rocky Pennington testified that they saw her covered in bruises and cuts shortly after the incident in question, and that Heard told them then that Depp had attacked her. Texts show Depp's staff agreeing to say they didn't know how he lost the tip of his finger. Judge Andrew Nichol, in his judgment, wrote, I accept that she, Heard, was the victim of sustained and multiple assaults by Mr. Depp in Australia. It is a sign of the depth of his rage that he admitted scrawling graffiti in blood from his injured finger, and then, when that was insufficient, dipping his badly injured finger in paint and continuing to write messages and other things. I accept your evidence of the nature of the assault you committed against her. They must have been terrifying. I accept that Mr. Depp put her in fear of her life. There is also compelling evidence that Heard behaved violently towards Depp over the course of their relationship. Depp has made public audio recordings of conversations he had with Heard over the course of their relationship. In the recordings, which were first published by the Daily Mail shortly before the UK trial in January 2020, Heard refers to hitting Depp.
Because I love you. And I do not want to leave you. I do not want a divorce. I do not want you out of my life. I just want peace. If things get physical, we have to separate. We have to be apart from one another, whether it's for an hour or 10 hours or a day. We must. There can be no physical violence towards each other.
I agree about the physical violence, but separating for a day or night and taking a night off from our marriage.
No. All I'm saying is we need to take whatever time we need, you need, or I need, to kind of let things settle for a minute, so that we don't kill each other, or worse, you know, like really kill each other, or break up, or whatever. If the fight escalates to the point of where it's just insulting for both of us, or if it gets to that physical the violence, that's when we just say, look, let's go to our corners, man. You hang wherever you want, baby. I'm going in the office, and I'm just gonna sit there and try and de-gellify my brain.
I can't promise you that I'll be perfect. I can't promise you I won't get physical again. God, I sometimes get so mad I lose it. I can promise you I'm gonna do everything to change. Promise you. I'm not gonna throw around divorce. I will not say divorce unless I really mean it.
I love you. I want you to be my wife. And I want to be your husband. I want to be a good husband. And if I haven't been, I'll do everything I can to find out how to be a good husband.
In another audio recording during conversation about the Australia incident, Heard appears to mock the idea that Depp might position himself as a victim.
It's been going on too long, Amber. Maybe we just gotta stop this. Just gotta stop it.
I don't know how to get my reputation back.
We write a letter together.
Sorry.
Saying that we're going to take this out of the public eye, saying that we're going to try and work this out on our own, saying that the media has created such a fucking hateful storm that it's sickening, that we love each other, and that we want to make sure each other is okay. Have we had fights in the past? Have we had this or whatever? Fuck it, they already know all that shit. Don't matter. Here's the deal.
No, it matters. You have no idea. Every ounce of my credibility has been taken from. I mean, and done so in a dishonest way. You know.
Amber, the abuse thing is we've got to deal with that. Yeah. We gotta deal with that,
Amber. I
Amber.
don't have any way of my credit is my credibility. You know what?
And why did you put that out there?
I did not. You forced me. Your team forced me to by going on the offense.
I didn't force you to.
From the very beginning. I promise. Look up the timelines to these things. Everything is. Forget it. Forget it. You don't believe what I say. You don't believe what I say. But I did not choose this. Every step of the way has been an offense.
I did not put this anywhere. I didn't. Let me talk to the fucking team.
I did not call the cops. I gave them no statement.
Io called the
I did
cops.
not call the cops.
You told Io to call the cops.
I did not call the cops, and I did not give them any statement when they came. I've been trying to protect you.
You told Io to call the cops.
While it was happening?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, because the last time that it got crazy between us, I really did think I was going to lose my life, and I thought you would do it on accident. And I told you that. I said, oh my God, I thought the first time.
Amber, I lost a fucking finger, man. Come on. I had a fucking can of mineral spirits thrown at my nose.
You can please tell people that it was a fair fight and see what the jury and judge think. Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence, and
Yes.
it's a fair fight. And see how many people believe or side with you.
It doesn't matter if it's for fair fight my ass.
Exactly, because you're.
Mr. Depp, when did you have the conversation reflected in this recording with Ms. Heard?
I don't recall exactly when it was.
What's your best estimate?
My best estimate is that it was quite a while before the meeting in San Francisco in July. Excuse me.
How far after May 21st, 2016 do you think that conversation was?
Objection calls for speculation. Sorry, he said he doesn't remember when it was.
I'm asking for his best estimate.
I'll allow it if you can answer it this way.
Sorry, could you ask it again? I was distracted.
How long after May 21st, 2016 do you believe that conversation took place?
I would say that it was not too far, maybe a couple of months. It was far enough to where the world media was already bombarding me. So it was an attempt to try to make all the.
Objection, Your Honor, beyond the scope.
All right. I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
What are you referring to when you said you and Ms. Heard will write a letter together?
I was trying to make a peaceful settlement.
And what are you referring to when you say you lost a finger?
A very large bottle of vodka severing my my middle finger in Australia.
And what were you referring to when you said a can of mineral spirits was thrown at your nose?
One of the arguments on the island where Miss Heard had been howling at me with some argument, and she picked up a can of mineral spirits about yay big and just heaved it at me, and it struck me on the bridge of the nose and right there, the forehead.
And what did you say in response when Miss Heard said, "Tell the world, Johnny, tell them Johnny Depp, Johnny Depp, a man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence"?
I said, yes, I am.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Sir, you can have a seat next to your attorney, please.
Thank you.
All right. Your next witness.
In April 2022, Depp's team presented this recording at the trial in Fairfax during Depp's testimony. Depp's team is also leaning on the difference between Depp's reported history and hers. While Depp has previously been accused of property damage and verbal threats, he's never before been accused of the kind of violence Heard describes in her account, which previous girlfriends have described as uncharacteristic of him. Heard, however, does have some minor accusations of violence to account for. In 2009, Heard Heard got into an argument at an airport with her then girlfriend, Tasha when police arrested Heard after she allegedly struck Ree's arm, but charges were never pressed. Ree has released a statement sticking by Heard saying the incident was blown out of proportion and chalking it up what she describes as the cops, misogyny and homophobia. And Heard's former assistant Kay James testified in court that this April, that when she asked Heard for a pay raise, Heard spat in her face. Depp is also arguing that Heard hasn't actually donated her full divorce settlement to charity as she said she would. I told you that one would come back. While Heard promised to give the ACLU $3 and $5 million, the ACLU has confirmed that she only donated $1 and $3 million, and that it believes at least $500,000 of that money came from Elon Musk, whom Heard briefly dated after her divorce from Depp. Depp's team seems to be trying to imply that Heard does actually need some money and that maybe that was her motive all along for going after Depp. So, what do we do with these two competing narratives? On April 14, Depp's team called marriage counselor Laurel Anderson to the stand at the Fairfax trial. Anderson, who counseled Depp and Heard during their marriage, said she considered their dynamic to be one of mutual abuse. Anderson testified that she saw Heard bruised after altercations with Depp and that Heard told her she had initiated physical fights with Depp on multiple occasions. She said she believed but wasn't certain that Depp had also initiated physical fights with Heard. Both Depp and Heard have said that they experienced physical abuse as children, and Anderson's theory is that their relationship pushed them back into toxic childhood patterns, which each abusing the other and neither one ultimately more responsible than the other. However, domestic violence experts describe the concept of mutual abuse as divisive. Glenn argues that every altercation between two people has a primary aggressor, and that if the other party hits back in self-defense, that doesn't count as mutual abuse. Another concept from domestic violence research that may prove more useful to our understanding of this case is called DARVO. Jennifer Freyd, a professor emeritus of psychology, writes that DARVO refers to a reaction perpetrator of wrongdoing, particularly sexual offenders, may display in response to being held accountable for their behavior. DARVO stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. The perpetrator or offender may deny the behavior, attack the individual doing the confronting, and reverse the roles of victim and offender, such the perpetrator assumes the victim role and turns the true victim or the whistleblower into an alleged offender. In this case, both Depp and Heard claim that they are being falsely smeared as an abuser by the true abuser. If one of them is telling the truth, the other is engaging in a classic DARVO, but which one? That may not be a question that can be answered to the satisfaction of a criminal court beyond a shadow of a doubt. But there is what we do know. Johnny Depp is 23 years older than Amber Heard, exponentially more famous, and for most of their relationship was much richer than she was. Neither one of them seems to have all that much liquid cash right now. Of the two of them, he was the one in the position to wield power. And in the UK, where it's extremely difficult to prove a case like this, a court has already found that Depp was most likely the perpetrator and aggressor. So if all that is the case, then why does it seem like so many people online are sure that Depp is an innocent victim and Heard is an abuser? Why does it seem like so many people online are rooting for Johnny Depp? The sheer volume of offline support for Depp has become one of the biggest audience of this case. On Reddit, Twitter, and TikTok, people are loudly declaring their support for Depp and their authority that Heard is a liar. NBC News at the trial began reported posters on Twitter and TikTok have overwhelmingly backed Depp, with hashtags like Justice for Johnny Depp racking up nearly 3 billion views on TikTok. Similar hashtags have been tweeted thousands of times. Why does it seem like the entire internet is Team Johnny Depp? Citing maps that refer to Heard as a liar, a gold digger, and Amber Tours, as well as a viral TikTok that addresses Heard with the line, "He could have killed you, he had every right." There is also some evidence that Depp's team has used social media bots in the past to gin up outrage against Heard. In 2020, Heard's team commissioned a report from Bot Sentinel, a group that uses artificial intelligence to detect troll bots. It found multiple Twitter accounts that it considered dubious, including one that posted "Fire her from all her roles, blacklist this crazy liar," and another that said "I'm starting a petition to get Amber Heard blacklisted from Hollywood." The report doesn't mean that every Johnny Depp supporter on the internet is actually a robot, but it does suggest that Depp's team had a history of strategically amplifying the conversation about him to make it appear that public opinion is more united on his side than it actually is. Depp has also become a symbol of sorts for those who want to have a conversation abuse about male victims of domestic violence, both in good faith and in bad. On Twitter, honest posts about Depp abound with the hashtag #BelieveMaleVictims. The National Domestic Violence Hotline estimates that 1 in 7 adult men in the US has been the victim of intimate partner violence, but says that men are less likely than women to report their abuse or seek out help. Supporters of Depp argue that his willingness to identify as a victim of domestic violence is a powerful gesture towards breaking that stigma. One can only hope that public attention surrounding the Depp trial will impart the importance of protecting oneself and believing male victims too, says the Washington Examiner. Meanwhile, Male magazine reports that in the so-called manosphere, where men's rights activists expound on the evil of feminism, Depp has become a hero. His trial fits neatly into a tapestry of claims that men are under attack, women alongside, clumsy narratives about false rape accusations, and mothers lying to block children from their fathers. Mel says, citing comments in which Depp supporters bemoan our culture's disproportional focus on female suffering and call for the destruction of the belief all women with no evidence narrative. Here, the ambiguity of this case is essentially offering cover for a Me Too backlash. For those who feel that the Me Too movement went too far, siding with Depp over Heard becomes a chance to position their opposition to the movement as a principled support for male abuse victims rather than a reactionary, misogynistic fury. It's also worth noting that Depp is the only true A-list sex symbol to face the wrath of Me Too. While many very famous and beloved men were accused of doing awful things to women in 2017 and 2018, Depp was the only one who is both a 3-time Oscar nominee and a 2-time People's Sexiest Man Alive. The culture has spent decades admiring Depp's talent and beauty and charisma, and all of that admiration doesn't just go away now. Depp's fans have made a powerful emotional investment in him, and many of them are willing to leap on any little moment of ambiguity in this case as proof of Depp's innocence. In a trial this messy, there are a lot of ambiguities. In the end, perhaps that's what's most damning about the larger conversation around this trial, the inability to handle the ambiguities. Faced with a portrait of a relationship in which there is compelling evidence of violence and toxic behavior on both sides, our culture seems unable to accept that we may simply be looking at a story without heroes. Instead, we demand a tidy narrative with a heroic redemption arc, and if the hero is a beloved, charismatic, and powerful man, well, all the better. It's unlikely that Depp is going to win this case. US libel law places the burden of proof on the accuser, not the accused, which means it's on Depp to prove to the jury that he didn't abuse Heard. If he lost a case in the UK where the labor laws were more favorable to him, it's hard to see him peeling out a victory in the US. It's also difficult to see Depp's reputation fully recovering from his recent string of lawsuits. Even after Heard accused him of domestic abuse, Hollywood had plenty of cover to continue business as usual, as it worked with Depp up until he dragged the fight into the courtroom. He wasn't fired from Fantastic Beasts after all until he lost his UK case. Another loss in the US courts is likely to leave him a toxic liability for movie producers for a very long time. And Heard, who has less of an established reputation to protect her, is potentially at even more of a risk. If this case proved one thing, however, is that Johnny Depp is still a star and he's still capable of commanding the nation's attention, and for a movie star whose light is fading fast, maybe that's enough. Neither side is going to win. The Depp-Heard trial proves that many challenges that domestic violence victims endure. Even two wealthy, privileged celebrities like Depp and Heard can become victims of abuse, and a situation like theirs can also be difficult to escape. If there is one thing that's clear in the Depp-Heard case, it's that not that much is clear. Thank you for watching this episode and see you the next time. Bye.